So this is going to be a little less formal than my last video. The reason why I'm going to be talking about what I am today is because yesterday was Super Bowl Sunday. And so it was a pretty big milestone for me. And I will tell you the reason why. But first, I want to give a quick content warning. Some of the things that I'm about ready to talk about are pretty heavy. They include things like suicide attempts, sexual assault, miscarriages, domestic violence. So if you are worried that hearing me talking about some of these things are going to cause you to have some kind of trauma or bring up things about your past that you can't handle or deal with right now, please do not watch this, because I want you to protect your energy, as that's what's important. I do not want anybody to have more trauma because of the things that I've gone through, or having to listen to me speaking about them and causing more trauma for you. So I'm just going to give that quick warning right now, so you have time to turn off this video and don't watch it. So kind of back to Super Bowl Sunday and why it kicked off, pun intended. One of the most traumatic years of my life, forever changed things with my family. It was the year that my family basically had their final break. It was the end of our family. And it was just, there were so many traumatic things that happened before and after that year, but that year was really bad. So 19 years ago on Super Bowl Sunday, I was 19. So that was basically my halfway point of my life, you know. That was 19 years ago. I was 19. So it was about 3 years after we moved here from Idaho. In those 3 years, things were really bad. My family and I were completely isolated in a very small town here in Texas. The town was called Buda. There was no bus system. There was only one very small grocery store. We never left the house. Rarely. I mean, we'd leave the house to get groceries and every once in a while go to a day trip somewhere, but we pretty much were stuck in the house, especially since all my siblings and I did not do any school. We did not go to church. My siblings pretty much lived off of freezer meals and very sugary cereal, sugary drinks. The house was filthy. It was so dirty. I mean, it was not unusual for there to be dog poop just, randomly everywhere. Dog urine. The house stunk like, unwashed bodies, dog mess, trash. At one point in time we had a major infestation of mice. I think they caught like 30 mice in one day. So there was mice poop everywhere, rodents, scorpions, all kinds of bugs. It was bad. It was really bad. I mean, there was dust and dog hair everywhere. I mean, it was not a livable place. I mean, children should not be there. And unfortunately, we were all uneducated, fat, sitting around watching TV all day on the computer, playing video games. That's what it is consisted of. When we weren't fighting with each other, we were just, watching people on TV, playing video games, and eating. Yeah. My mom, unfortunately had been going through so much trauma that she could not eat anymore. She couldn't eat. She was the opposite of us. The rest of us were really overweight. She was majorly malnourished. She was getting no nutrition. She was down to 80 pounds, I believe, maybe even lower than that. And so she looked like a Holocaust victim. She did. Her cheekbones would stick out of her face. She's wearing a swimming suit. You could see her rib bones. It was really sad. And, obviously we didn't know it at the time, but she did have a heart problem, so she wasn't getting enough nutrition to her brain. And so she was going through a psychosis that kind of resembled schizophrenia. She was going through things and saying things that were incredibly abstract and very angry, and which I completely understand. And I mean, it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense why she was so angry and why things were so, things that she was saying were so off and weird. And, Mom was kind of thrown into the formal dining room. A twin bed was thrown in the room. So she slept, that's all she did when she wasn't up, when she wasn't awake and going through massive amounts of anxiety and stress and depression, she would sleep. And so she was just constantly in, the room right off to the kitchen, didn't have a door on it, was pretty much open so people could walk in and out. She had no privacy. That's where she slept. Yeah. She slept there because she was afraid of sleeping next to my dad. She didn't want to be sleeping in the room with my dad anymore. She was scared of him. And she was telling people that she was scared of my dad. She would tell people that called up that she was scared of my dad. And she had every right to be. But she was crazy, right? So no one cared. Nope. So, it was obviously in February, Super Bowl Sunday. I was in the kitchen. I was making sewing project. And, my brother and I got some refuge by working. We both had jobs. And unfortunately, both of us didn't know how to drive, weren't allowed to drive, didn't have a vehicle. So we relied on our parents to take us to work. And Dad, he worked the whole weekend shift at his job. So Mom, it was her responsibility to get us to work on the weekends. Luckily, I didn't work on the weekends, but Eric did. So she took Eric to work. And she told me, "Hey, Audra, I am really tired. I don't feel good. I'm going to go lay down. Can you let Dad know that he needs to pick up Eric from work?" And I was like, yeah, that's fine. I continued to sew and kind of got caught up in what I was doing. All of a sudden, probably about 30 minutes later, I remembered, oh yeah, I got to call up Dad, let him know he needs to go pick up Eric. So I called my dad. I said, "Hey, Dad, Eric needs you to pick him up from work. Mom's not feeling good." And he says, "Oh, well, what time?" I didn't know. So I was like, let me go ask Mom. So I went in there and tapped my mom. "Hey, Mom, what time does Daddy need to get Eric?" There wasn't an answer. She wasn't waking up. I was, like, this is weird. So I'm shaking my mom. I'm telling my dad, "Hey, Mom's not waking up. There's something wrong. Let me call you back." And he's like, "Okay." So by this time, my two other siblings who were younger than us were in there because they heard me. I mean, I'm literally yelling at my mom. I'm screaming at her, wake up, what's going on?" They come in, we try to put ice on her. I mean, I think at one time I literally slapped her because I'm really concerned something's wrong with Mom. She's not waking up. So I finally just called 911. I'm like, this is not good. I call 911. They come out. I wanted to go in the ambulance with my mom. They said, "You know what? You're not going to be able to leave your siblings here." I think they were maybe 12 and 10 at the time. So I hurried and I ran over to my neighbor's house and I said, "Hey, can you guys just watch my two siblings just for a little bit? My dad's going to probably be home soon. I got to take my mom to the hospital. I want to be with her." So they said, "Oh yeah, we're watching the big game. They can watch it with us." And all of a sudden it hit me, oh, it's Super Bowl Sunday. So I always think of, this event whenever Super Bowl Sunday comes because it was a pretty big time in our life. So get to the hospital. My mom dies. My mom actually had to be revived. She dies. So they asked me if I thought she did something or took something, and I did not think so. I mean, we were literally talking I would say minutes before all of this took place, about how we were going to make a really cool craft room, how it'd be really cool to have a cool craft room. So in my mind, somebody who is suicidal would not be thinking about what they were going to do in the future, right? So they did all kinds of tests on her. They did tons and tons and tons of tests on her, because they did not know what happened. Luckily, they were able to get her to finally wake up, and she told them, I took a whole bottle of Xanax. I don't want to be here anymore. My family is better off without me. So they came in and they told me that. I was surprised. It was really hard knowing that. So while they had done all those tests on her, they found out she had a heart problem. Her heart valve had been torn. It was more than likely due to all the stress that she had been under. It had physically altered her heart and tore one of her heart valves. So they told her, you need open heart surgery. This is an emergency. You need to get this taken care of now. And she says to them, I want to die. Why would I do that? Why would I let you guys open me up and save my life when I don't want to be here anymore? So the doctor said, okay, we're going to talk to the judge about this. I think that we need to take care of this now. So they contacted a judge who signed off on my mom going to a mental hospital until she would agree to have open heart surgery. I'm glad they did that. At the same time, I don't know how constitutional that is, but that's what they did. So my mom is probably in a mental hospital for about 3 weeks, maybe a little bit more. I'm not sure. And so not too long after that happened, mom's back. She's agreeing to the surgery. It's a little ways away because they still have to get her, physically healthy enough to make it through the surgery. I mean, she's skin and bones. She's teeny tiny. So at the same time, I had a little dog named Addie. She was a little Maltese. My mom got her for me when I was 11 because I felt very unloved and cared for as a little girl. And so she thought, you know what, maybe a dog would help her. And it did. Addie was like my support animal. This dog was my everything. Friends that know me from that time period know that this dog was around 24/7, because this was my baby. And Addie started getting sick. Something was wrong with Addie. And took her to a vet. The vet told me, oh, I think it's her spine. There's something wrong with her spine. You need to pay this and you need to do this. I spent all my money trying to help, pay for what they said that my dog needed. They said that she's probably going to need some x-ray. This x-ray was, over $1,000. I didn't have the money for that yet. So I was like, you know what, I'll go ahead. I have some money I had invested in stock. So I'll go ahead and sell my stock and wait for that check to come in so I can pay for the dog to have this x-ray and whatever surgery that she needs. I mean, I would have paid anything I had to save this dog. She was, at the time, I felt like the only love I had. So, plus I loved her. I loved her more than anything. So, she was waiting for that money to come in, and one night she was in a lot of pain. I was like, I don't know if this is it. I don't know if this is what's going on with her, because she's barely breathing, And so we run her to an emergency vet, as it was in the middle of the night, and the vet there found out, no, it's not her spine, it's her uterus. Her uterus, since she was never fixed, it had been infected and it was really close to bursting. And she told me that if we didn't get emergency surgery on the dog or put the dog down, what was going to happen is the dog's uterus was going to burst, and it was going to basically cause her to bleed to death, and it would be incredibly painful for her. I didn't have any money. I had no more money. I spent the last amount I had at the emergency vet. My money was gone. I now had stock I was waiting for. You know, I had a check. I had a check that was coming in, but I did not have it in hand. So I begged my dad. I said, please, please let me borrow the money so that I can please get a surgery on her so we can make sure that she's okay. You know, I don't want her to go through that. I don't want her to bleed to death. I don't want her to be in pain anymore. It is so hard seeing this dog go through pain, knowing how much I love the dog and how much the dog does not deserve this. And he said no. He said he did not trust me to pay him back. He said that if he loaned me the money, he probably wouldn't see it again. And I told him, I said, Dad, I will literally write the check over to you. I can't even go and cash the check without you because you have to be the one to drive me to the bank. Nope. He was okay with me possibly seeing my dog die. He was okay with the dog going through pain like that. He enjoyed telling me that too. I spent all night calling all these different emergency vets asking for advice. What can I do? I don't even have the money to put her down. And finally, a woman said, well, there's actually this one vet clinic here in Austin, and I know that in the past they have taken payments from people. It's probably a long shot since they don't know you, but at least you can call them up, ask them, you know. So the next morning, I called up this vet, explained the situation, and you know, he was a little nervous because he didn't know me, but he agreed. He said, you know what? I don't want your dog to be going through pain like that. So why don't you go ahead and bring her in? I'll charge you cost. I won't even charge you for my fee. I will just charge you what it costs me for the surgery. And when you get your check, you can go ahead and pay me. And so that's what happened. This man who did not know me, did not have any idea if I would pay him back, he agreed to save my dog for me. And the second I got that check, I took it to him and I signed it over to him because I was so glad that he saved my dog for me. He saved her going through that pain. About the same time, I was so desperate to get out of my house. I was so desperate to get away from my dad, get away from, you know, all of the filth, all of the contention, all of it was death in that house. It was death. So I met this guy, and he originally lived up in Dallas. He wanted to come down here to Austin because he actually worked here. And so he convinced me to sign a lease with him. We would get a condo together. I honestly really didn't know him, but I mean, nothing's going to be worse than what's going on with my family, right? So, I mean, my dad had been making a point that he wanted me out for a long time. So, I was like, yeah, let's go ahead and do it. Let's move in together. Yeah, this is cool. I get to, you know, maybe you can help me learn how to drive. Maybe you can help me, you know, figure out how to do what I need to do so that I can start, you know, being a little bit more independent. And so I moved in with him. I think I moved in with him a couple weeks before my mom had her actual open heart surgery. I remember her going through that. I remember going to the hospital and seeing how she'd been completely cut up. Huge scar going down her You know, my mom has a very low threshold to pain, so she was in agony. She was in complete agony. It was so hard to see her go through that, but I was so glad that she was okay. My siblings, though, before she went through the open heart surgery, I wasn't living at home anymore. So I did not hear the things that my dad was telling my siblings about my mom. Before that, he was telling my siblings that my mom has no will to live. She doesn't want to live for them anymore. She's done. She's gone. So she's probably not going to survive the surgery. Yeah, she's probably going to die. So you guys should start emotionally distancing yourself away from your mom. You know, my sister told me this years later that my dad said that. And the reason why I wasn't there, because he knew if he would have said that around me, I would have been like, are you kidding me? Screw you. No. So yeah, my siblings were told that my mom did not care about them, didn't want to love them, wasn't going to survive the surgery, so they needed to start distancing themselves and letting her go. It was going to be better for them if they let her go. Unfortunately, I think they did that. And I think they believed him. So, but mom survived. She did. She got through the surgery. It was as you can imagine, a very serious surgery. They had to crack her ribs open. They had to surgically break her ribs. And she got really puffy. She had edema, so they had to give her all kinds of different things to help her with that. You know, she literally had I think they had machines of breathing for her, a machine circulating her blood, because they had to take her heart out of her body and operate on it, stick it back in her. Yeah, it's a pretty serious surgery. It's pretty crazy what the body goes through with that. So that was probably in, I would say, maybe May. At this point, we're at May. So June, we were finally realizing now we're going to lose our house. Dad had stopped making payments on our house. Yeah. At the time, I wasn't like overly, it was hard, but I was living elsewhere. I was trying to focus on other things, trying to get my mind off of it, trying to work. But then, you know, the guy I was living with, his name was Walter. He started getting really abusive with me, really verbally abusive. He would just snap. And he also was really weird with my dog. He was, like, if my dog, you know, took her dog food and came over to the carpet and sat down and started eating her food on the carpet, he'd freak out on her. Or if, you know, he forced her to stay in the bathroom all day long while I was at work. So she was in this little bathroom all day long while we were at work, because he was worried that she could possibly mess on the carpeting. So one day I come back from work and it smells really weird. There's a weird smell in the house. I go to the bathroom where my dog had been, and the bathroom smells weird. The shower curtain's down. It's pulled down, and my dog smells weird. She smells like a combination of feces and chemicals. There's something wrong. And so I asked Walter, I said, did something happen to the dog? It's like, did Addie do something in the bathroom? Why does it smell weird? He's like, oh, well, she just messed in the bathroom. I took care of it. Don't worry about it. He was never nonchalant over things like that. So that alerted me immediately that something was not right. So one of the things about Malteses is they have this very white hair. And when their white hair gets wet, it becomes transparent, and you can see every little freckle, every little mark on their skin. So since my dog had a really weird smell to her, I decided I'm going to go ahead and just give the dog a bath, because, You know, I knew something was up, but he wasn't telling me. And as soon as I got her wet, that's when I saw he had been beating the shit out of my little dog. She had red marks all over her little body. She had healed bruises. And I felt so guilty. I brought her into that situation. And so I immediately, I didn't even say anything to him about it. I knew it wouldn't matter. So I went ahead and called up my mom and asked if the dog can come back and live with them. I was worried for her safety. I thought he would kill her or something. I mean, she's a little dog. She wasn't doing anything wrong. So it was hard because I knew I couldn't even have my little dog with me. But for her safety, I had her go back and live with my parents. I knew my little sister would take good care of her, because Amy was really good with the dogs. So Addie went back to stay with my parents. At the same time, I mean, I have my coworkers at work telling me, I gotta get the heck away from this guy. You need to get out of there. I had nowhere to go. My dad didn't want me home. My room had already been given away to my sister. And we were going to lose our house. Where was I going to go? So I just realized I had to stay out of his way. I had to stay out of his way and try to figure out, you know, how to learn how to drive, how to figure out a way to get my own place. I needed to figure it out because I didn't have anywhere to go. I think my mom was worried about me. My dad didn't care. My dad liked the guy because he said that he was the only guy that he thought he could ever control me because I needed that. So about the same time, my cousin, she was pregnant. She had, I think she already had 3 or 4 other little kids. And she had MS. Unfortunately, her and her husband had lost their home and was needing a place to stay just temporarily before her sister could come and get her and bring her up to Idaho. So my cousin, her husband, and her kids moved in with my family for just a short period of time while my family was losing their house. I mean, it kind of was nice because, you know, all of a sudden there was a whole bunch of cute little kids around. It was hard. It was really hard. But it kind of, you know, gave us family, gave us other things to think about besides what was going on with our family. It was hard for my mom, though. You know, I remember getting after my mom saying, Mom, you cannot hold the kids. You're trying to recover. You cannot hold the kids. You know, she's packing up our house, you know, trying to figure out where we're going to go. And I'm having to tell my mom, you can't lift that. You cannot do that, Mom. And so, in July, my birthday is July 11th. July 11th came. It was my 20th birthday. And, we were going to celebrate it at my parents' house. And, I was excited. Walter, he went back up to Dallas for a while, but he was going to show up at the birthday party. That day before, my sister and my cousin Aubrey had come over, and we had been doing all kinds of crafts on the table at my condo. My dad was supposed to pick us up at a certain time. Dad arrived early, and I said, hey, Dad, I got to clean this up. I cannot leave glitter and paper and glue sticks and, all of this stuff on the table. And my dad's like, don't worry about it. Just clean it up when you get back home. Let's go get your birthday party. Let's go have fun. And I was like, okay, yeah, you're right. So, we get the 2 girls, get in the car, go to my birthday party. It was actually really fun. It was really nice. It was fun having family there. It was fun, having all these little kids around. It was really nice. It was really nice. And Walter didn't show up to my party. I was kind of glad. Embarrassed because, you know, he was supposed to be there and everyone was asking, where's Walter? But I was kind of glad he didn't show up. My dad decided to, you know, it was getting kind of late. It's time to get you home. So he takes me home. I walk in, the whole place is dark. You know, I don't remember leaving the lights off, but maybe I did. Shut the door, turn on the light, and there's Walter. He's sitting at the table in the dark, just waiting for me. And I said, where were you? And he says, you left all of this shit here for me to take care of? And I said, you didn't come to my birthday party. I was like, I was doing crafts with my cousin and my sister. I was going to take care of it when I got home. And he's like, well, how do you think it was going to make me feel to come home and see all of this all over the place? And he started screaming at me, yelling at me. I lost it. I was so mad. Started taking all the stuff from the table and just pushing it off to the floor. Started yelling back at him. Grabbed some tea and poured it on the floor. And said, you know, you think that's messy? Well, look at this. I can do this too. He gets up and he lunges at me. He grabs me by the throat and he starts choking me. I wasn't expecting it, so I fell down. He grabs me, lifts me up in the air, and tosses me right into the entertainment center. Books, TVs, shelves, everything just came toppling on top of my body. It hurt really bad, but I was pissed. I started yelling back at him, got up. You know, he grabs his phone and he calls my mom. He calls my mom and he tells my mom that, you know, I'm causing problems. And he explains that, you know, yeah, I just threw Audra into the entertainment center, but you need to talk to your daughter and tell her to behave herself. So he hands me the phone. I'm talking to my mom. She's worried. She's like, are you okay? What's going on? Is it, you know, is he hurting you? And I'm like, yeah. And all of a sudden it hits me, holy cow, he just freaking assaulted me. I was like, Mom, I'm going to call the cops. And she's like, no, don't do that. Don't do that. I was like, yeah, I'm sorry, Mom, bye. And I call the cops. I literally call the cops. So he's sitting there, all of a sudden, you know, he comes back into the room, he's hearing me, and he's realizing I'm like giving an address. And it hits him, oh my gosh, she's on the phone with the cops. So he grabs my cell phone and he calls the cops and tells them, don't come, you guys don't need to come. It's just a lover spat, no big deal. And they're like, yeah, sorry, we're on our way. So he goes and he gets the vacuum. He starts vacuuming the house knowing the cops are on the way because he is so weird about anything being on the floor. So, you know, I mean, I'm on 911. Operators asking like, what is he doing? Is there weapons in the house? And I'm like, oh yeah, he's vacuuming. He's vacuuming. So anyway, my mom, she finally gets a hold of my dad. My dad turns around, comes back over. You know, I'm sitting on the couch just waiting for the cops. Walter's done vacuuming. He's sitting on the other side of the couch. My dad comes in, sits standing between us. So we're just all sitting there, hanging out, quiet, waiting for the cops to show up. And so, you know, they walk in and they're confused because they just see the three of us sitting on the couch, just waiting. You know, they're like, okay, so what happened? And I explained, well, you know, this guy, he just physically assaulted me, explained what happened. And they ask, you know, my dad, they're like, who are you? You know, and he's like, oh, well, I'm her dad. And they're like, you knew that this happened? You knew that your daughter was just assaulted by this guy? And he's like, oh yeah, I just came back just to, you know, take her as soon as you guys take off with him or do whatever you're gonna do with him. You know, and they tell my dad, they're like, wow. They're like, in all the years that we've been police officers, there has never, ever been a circumstance where the father ended up showing up and we didn't have to get the guy, you know, the father off of the guy, you know, especially if he knew his daughter was assaulted. You know, we always have to pull the dad off of the guy, you know, or at least try to keep him away. and you're just sitting here right next to him, just hanging out, and it's funny because it hit me. I like, wow, you're right. That's not normal, like, yeah, you're right. He doesn't care. I was just physically assaulted and choked, and he's just sitting there right next to the guy, and my dad, he thought it was really, said a lot about him too. He thought it meant that he was really composed and chilled out, and that they respected that. I think they were glad that they did not have to pull my dad off, but I don't think they respected that at all. I think they thought it was weird, because it is. So, they took Walter to jail. He was charged with domestic assault. I got a restraining order against him. Have no idea what happened with any of that, because I never spoke to him again. He tried to text me, tried to call me, I am so sorry, baby. It's like, no. So, I did lose some of my things. I wasn't able to get everything out of that place, but, it is what it is. At least I got my dog and I out of there. So now I'm back home. I'm sleeping on my old couch in my old room that is now occupied by my sister, because there is no place for me to sleep. Finally, my mom was able to find a bed for me to sleep in. She put a twin bed together in kind of like a game room area that we had. So there was no doors, no wall. It was a very open area. But it didn't matter anyway, because we were going to be losing the house. I mean, we had a month left to be in that house. So my dad had already gotten an apartment. Did not get any, there was not enough rooms for me. So it was one, my siblings all each got a room, and him and my mom got a room, but I didn't have a room, and I was not invited back to live with them. So I still had to figure out where to go. There was another guy that I had known, in England, and, he offered to let me go there, work for his real estate company. We would be, intimately involved, have a relationship. I was like, okay. So, I was supposed to sell all of my, I sold the rest of my stuff that I had, bought a plane ticket. I mean, we were going to do it, I even quit my job. I even, had to go an away party and everything. And, at this time, finally the house gets foreclosed on. We lose a lot of our stuff. My dad gives away stuff that's my mom's. I had antique furniture that my mom and I went and got together when I was a little girl, and she had it refinished for me. I planned to pass that on to my children someday. Didn't get to keep that. That was gone. Luckily, I still have my vanity and my dresser that went with the set, but the beds that I had, and the nightstands, those, lost those. We had a rabbit we had to give away. That was, really tough for my sister and I, because we loved this rabbit. There's tons, our Christmas tree, our family ornaments, things we collected throughout the years, pictures, our stockings that we grew up with and that were ours. All of that got left behind. When they came and took our house, they took the stuff that were left over and threw it all out in the driveway. And, we'd drive by and we'd see neighbors out there grabbing our stuff, looking through it, taking off with it. That was hard. They take off with your dignity when they do stuff like that. So we're now in an apartment. We're all angry. We're all sad. We're all hurt. My mom is still recovering from her open heart surgery. And my boyfriend back home, or back in England, says, hey, there's some pretty big stuff going on here. You're gonna have to wait. I was like, hey, I don't have enough money to buy another plane ticket. I sold everything. I sold my TV. I sold my computer. I sold everything. I quit my job. I quit my job. I mean, you were supposed to, let me work for you. You were going to help me figure out how to go to school. Your stepfather is, the dean of a university, supposedly. You were going to help me with this. I mean, there was no plan B. This was the only thing I had. It's like, you know what, don't worry. I will go ahead and pay for you, to get your ticket. I will pay for it. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I'm thinking, okay, I don't know how I'm going to, convince my dad to let me stay just a little bit longer because he wants me out. He does not want me around at all. Not at all. I'm sleeping in a bunk bed in my sister's room, and Dad's done with me. He does not want me around. So I was like, okay. And I went ahead. I remember that day. I have pictures of me that day that I took for him, and you can see the suitcases behind me opened because those were the suitcases that I was going to be using that day when my plane left, but they were on the bunk bed behind me, so I had to let my plane leave without me. And then he stopped replying to me. Then he would not take my calls anymore, would not answer my text messages. I was devastated. I was just so, like, I don't know what else to do. I don't know what else to do. I have nowhere to go. I mean, I'm going to be homeless. I don't even have a job anymore. And it was so uncomfortable. I mean, I didn't want to be there. My parents are literally sleeping on bunk beds themselves because my mom can't bring herself to sleep next to my dad because she's so scared and disgusted by him. And so, I just wanted to sleep. I was taking sleeping pills whenever I was awake. Take a Benadryl so I could just pass out again. I could not handle being awake. And, we went from being in a pretty big house full of contention to now a really small apartment filled with even more contention and stress and pain and all 6 of us and 4 dogs. And everyone was so agitated. Dad was gone. I'm on the bottom bunk bed, sleeping, trying to sleep. My brother Eric's on the opposite side of the wall, sitting on the couch, just doing that to the wall. Just bang, 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 bang. He's literally he's hitting the wall so hard. Things are falling off the wall. I mean, I had things that were, I had attached to the wall on the bunk bed area. They were falling on me. I come out and I said, hey, Eric, can you please stop doing that? I need to sleep. I can't sleep. No. Ignores me. Just keeps doing it. So I go into my mom's room. I said, Mom, can you please tell Eric to stop? I am so exhausted. I can't deal with this anymore. Please get him to stop. She comes in. She says, Eric, stop. He ignores her. My dad at this point had pretty much taught my siblings that they didn't need to listen to my mom. He just, I don't know if he told her to screw herself or fuck off or what, but that's pretty much what was said, even if it wasn't verbalized. I got pissed. I was so frustrated. I decided, you know what, I'm going to piss them off. I thought my brother Austin was doing it as well. I was wrong. I did not realize it, but I thought he was doing it too. So I thought, I'm going to run over. I'm going to lock their door, shut Austin's door so that he can't get into his room. That way, they're so focused on trying to get back in their room, they can just leave me alone. So I run over there, go to lock the door. Austin runs and grabs me. He puts his arms around me. And I turn around and I scratch him to get off of me. It was just an instinct, you know, when someone grabs you, you want to get away from them. So I scratched him. I run back in my room. I think I locked the door, was crying, upset. Next thing I know is I hear everyone getting up and running out of the front door. And I thought, oh shit, Dad's here. So they all run over to my dad. Dad, Audra's causing all this contention. Audra scratched Austin. Audra did this, Audra did that. My dad immediately just comes into the house and starts screaming at me. I want you out of here. You're nothing but trouble. You're nothing but this. You're nothing but that. I'm crying. I'm trying to explain to my dad, I did not start this. I did not start this. This started because of Eric. Even Mom was telling him, no, you know what, you and your mom, you're just alike. He points to the car wash next door and he says, you know what, you could go live there. You can go live and sleep in that car wash and no one's going to give a shit about you. You can take your mom with you. You and your mom can go together and go sleep at that car wash next door. I snapped. I went over and I grabbed bottle of Darvocet, which was a pain medication that was my mom had for her open heart surgery, and I downed the bottle. Austin ran over, was trying to get it away from me because he genuinely, I think, was concerned. I think he was worried about me. I know that I don't know if I hit him like with my elbow or what happened. We were physically struggling with each other because he was trying to get it away from me. I somehow ended up with a bloody nose. So obviously I got hit in the face. The 911 was called. They came out, took me to the hospital. They had to get it out of me. So I'm at the hospital. I'm thinking, okay, so I'm probably going to be able to, have my stay in the mental hospital now too. Talk to the social workers there, explain the situation. They didn't think that I was crazy. Yeah, they didn't think that I needed to go to the mental hospital. They actually were really worried about what was going on at my house. They were worried about my siblings, that there was minors that were living under these circumstances. They gave me all kinds of different resources. They're worried about my mom. Yeah, they thought my mom was being abused by my dad because she was. They gave her resources for a place called Safe Place here in Austin, which deals with domestic abuse victims. They really had wanted us to call them up. They felt bad for us. I had someone genuinely give a shit about us for once. But in all of that, they did alert CPS because they were really concerned about the fact that my siblings, Amy had never gone to school. I mean, my sister had probably one week, maybe a month of formal schooling, but my sister had never, ever set foot inside regular school. Yeah, my brother Austin was taken out, I think, in 2nd grade. That was concerning to them. They asked, well, do they get any schooling? No. Actually, I taught my sister how to read. Yeah, I taught Amy how to read. So they actually decided to open an investigation against my dad. Unfortunately, here in Texas, if you do not register your kids for school, there's nothing they can really do. They said that if my siblings had gone to school, had been registered at least once, they could have stepped in and did something. But because of that, my dad was really mad at me though, because it was my fault that CPS was called on him, because I said stuff that obviously alerted them, so it was my fault. So come back home, Dad's gone. Dad took my siblings and left. That was the last time all of us had lived together in a house. He went and got himself another apartment, another luxury apartment. I think it was a 3 or 4 bedroom. Must have been a 4 bedroom since I think they all had their own rooms. got himself a brand new Ford Expedition. It wasn't brand new, it was used, but it was pretty good condition used. It was, there was payments on it each month. He couldn't afford our house, but he was able to afford 2 pretty big apartments, and that Ford Expedition. So it's now what, September? I finally am able to get my job back. My position was given away. So I did not have the position I originally had, which was actually a pretty decent position. I was working in marketing. Now, not doing that. You used to have a 9-to-5 job. No, now I got different hours. So, my position was, luckily the pay was the same, but it was a lot harder. I was doing work that was definitely more difficult. So I had a job, was able to start paying, try to help support Mom and I. Was buying the groceries for us. Mom had to drive me. We had a really broken down van that she would drive me and take me around in to get groceries or go to work. It was really hard though. It was really hard. Finally, October came. October was a good month. I met Miles. I had been talking to him for, I think, over a year. We had just been online friends. Never expected to meet him, really liked him. I thought he was really good looking. I did not think that he would ever be interested in me. He was older than me, about 10 years older than me. Smart, sophisticated, funny, good looking. So, but for some reason, I think it was because it was his birthday. I was like, hey, why don't we just meet up and say hi, meet each other finally. I also wanted to get out of the house. I thought, what the heck? So I met Miles. We clicked instantly. It was like, it was like home. He felt like home. For the first time, I really felt accepted by someone. It was nice. He didn't know everything that was going on at my house, but because I didn't really tell people about that. But he did know that things were happening. He knew that there's problems with my mom, my dad. But I didn't have to think about that when I was with him. We just hung out. We went to the parks. We like to go hiking and go to movies together. Our first date, he took me to the Alamo Drafthouse. First time I had ever been there. And I always felt like I could talk to him. I could tell instantly that he was very compassionate and empathetic. I could tell instantly he was nothing like my dad. And that's what I had been looking for. November, I find out I'm pregnant. Yeah, I was not expecting that. We had been using protection. 3 forms. 3 forms of protection. So when I wasn't feeling good and I missed my period, I thought, oh no, there's no way. I go and I get a pregnancy test at work, come home, I'm like, I'm just freaking myself out, it's just late, it's stress. So when I saw 2 little lines, I was like, oh, okay. I walk out, to my mom. because I was kind of in shock. And I said, hey, Mom, does this mean I'm pregnant? And she had no idea that I was even considering or concerned about that. So she was kind of surprised at the question. And she looks down and she says, yeah, you're pregnant. And I was just like, oh, wow. So just something else, right? Even my mom, same thing. She was like, how the heck are we going to do this? How are we going to do this? I mean, I don't know. So, told Miles, I mean, I'd only known him for about a month, in person. And, he's like, no, we're not doing this. And I didn't believe in abortion for myself. I said, you know what, I'm sorry. I'm not doing the abortion thing. I don't believe in that. I understand other people for doing that. For me, it's not for me. And so he says, a baby can't make a relationship though. That can't be why we have a relationship. And I was angry. I was hurt. I thought, but I decided I was going to keep it. I was going to, I started allowing myself to kind of get excited about it. Maybe this is what I need. Maybe if I had something to take care of, it can, maybe it's a fresh start, So, Miles and I just kind of agreed that we would just take things slow. We weren't going to be in a relationship, but we would just, get to know each other more, try to figure out what we were going to do, if anything. So, December, I go and I spend the night at Miles's house. I was supposed to stay longer than that. I was supposed to spend some time with him, but he had a friend that his best friend had a band, and Miles managed his friend's band for him. And all of a sudden he remembered, oh yeah, I'm supposed to go and meet with this guy today, so I'm going to have to take you home earlier than I expected. I was like, okay, no big deal. I've always been pretty laid back with that, so yeah, that's cool. I was just happy that I got to spend some time with Miles and that we enjoyed ourselves together. So he lived about an hour away from me, so he had to drive me all the way back down to Austin and drop me off at my apartment. I had to pee so bad. Being pregnant now several times, that's the first stage of pregnancy, is you have to pee all the time. And I had been stuck in the car for about an hour. So I run upstairs to the apartment, put my key in the door, try to open it. It won't open. I'm like, okay, the deadlock. Okay. So I'm knocking on the door. Mom, open the door. I need to get in. Please let me in. There's no answer. She's in there. The deadlock, it's bolted. It's bolted. So she's in there. And I'm banging on the door. I'm banging on her window, which is right by the door. I'm getting pissed because I have to pee so bad. And I'm like, I'm calling her up on my cell phone. No response. And all of a sudden it hits me. I'm like, oh no, what's wrong with Mom? And, her window is right by the door. The blinds are all the way down. And so I can't look inside. All of a sudden, I back away a little bit, and I realize that the blinds have hit the desk that's right in front of the window. And the window, you can kind of see in through the window under the desk because the blinds hit the desk and haven't gone all the way down. So there's probably about 3 inches that you can kind of see into the room. So I crouch down, and I look into her room, and I see my mom's body on the bed. She's got pictures scattered all over her, on top of her. And she's just lifeless on the bed. And at that point, I don't know if I'm looking at my dead mother. I'm hitting the window and she's not moving. I can't even see her breathing. And I'm so desperate to get to her, but so terrified what I'm gonna find out when I get there. I run to the neighbor, bang on their door, beg them to answer it. They don't answer it, go downstairs, same thing. I don't have time. I don't have time. If she's still alive, I mean, she died last time. We barely got her in time. I've been gone all night. I don't know when she did this. I don't know when she did this. She could have done this last night and she's dead. So just in case, I kick the window. I kick the window. I break the window. And there's those decorative bars on the window. I couldn't kick them in. So there's little shards of glass on those bars. I grab it with my hand. I pull it out. I just start tugging it and pulling it. You know, pieces of glass are in my hands. I go and I get into the window. I get in the window and there's that desk there. I put my hands down on top of broken glass and jump over. I finally get to her and she's warm and I can tell she's breathing. And I mean, it was like, oh my gosh. So my dog is supposed to be there. I can't find my dog. I don't know where my dog is. I'm worried, you know, did something happen to the dog? Calling the dog. Don't have time. You know, I'm just going to call 911, let them know they need to get here. My mom, she's not waking up. You know, the pictures that are all scattered, there's none of my siblings and I. It's her parents. She has pictures of her parents and pictures of her siblings and her as little girls. And, you know, she's so devastated, missing my grandparents so much, which I felt the same way. So she was obviously going over past memories and mourning and couldn't handle it anymore. Yeah, I mean, she's losing everything. She's losing everything. So, I'm on 911. The whole time I'm looking around the whole house looking for my dog because I'm worried something happened to my dog. I mean, the 911 operator is getting pissed off at me because she says, stop calling your dog, go in there and make sure your mom's okay. So I stay in there with my mom. They finally show up. As soon as the EMTs show up, the dog just magically comes out from under the bed. She had been under there the whole time, but I don't know if she was scared or what happened, but she was not coming out when I called her, which was not like her. I was glad that she was okay. I was glad my mom was finally, you know, being looked after. Immediately called up Miles as soon as I got off 911, let him know what happened. He said he was coming right back. I'm sitting on the couch, you know, about ready to hang up the phone with Miles, and this EMT comes over to me and grabs my arm, and I look down and there's just ribbons of red coming out of my arm. I had cut my arm up and I didn't even notice it. I had just shards of glass right in my arm, and you know, I didn't even feel it. I didn't even feel, you know, and you know, the EMT is taking pieces of glass out of my arm and tells me, you know, you're gonna need stitches. And I still have scars. Never went and got stitches though. I didn't have time to. There was no way for, yeah, I just threw a Band-Aid on it and, you know, finally got it to stop bleeding, and that was it. Miles finally showed up. He walked in as my mom was being wheeled out. I was embarrassed, relieved to see him though. Obviously I don't even remember doing it, but I must have called up my dad as well. Miles and I were sitting there in my house or in the apartment talking. My dad and siblings showed up, and Miles got to meet them for the first time, which was a really weird time to meet my dad. It was interesting because Miles was the only boyfriend I've ever had that never sucked up to my dad, and literally kind of I could tell looked down on him and was very like, you know, yeah, he kind of put my dad in his place a little bit, which was it was pretty hot actually. So I was surprised. I had never seen that before. So from day one, my dad and Miles did not like each other. Even now, my dad hates Miles. And I'm okay with that because Miles is too good for him. So, Miles went ahead and said, well, I'll let you be with your family. Let me know if you need anything. I was like, okay. So, I was left in the apartment by myself, while my mom was in the hospital. My mom was, taken to the mental hospital then. 5 days later, the day that my mom was in the mental hospital, I was at work and I feel something's going on and I'm having really bad cramps. I look down and I can see that there's blood coming down on my pants. And I'm like, oh, this is probably not very good. So I run over and I tell my boss. He's this older gentleman, very nice guy. I really liked him. I think his name was Bob. I said, hey, Bob. I said, I'm actually pregnant and I think I'm having a miscarriage. I think I need to go to the hospital. And I mean, I had not told anyone at work at this point that I was pregnant. So, it was really embarrassing. It felt weird having to tell him that. And he's like, oh my gosh. He's like, I am so sorry. I am so sorry. Do you need me to take you? What, do you want me to get one of the girls to take you? And I said, I'll go ahead and just call up my dad and ask him to take me, because I felt really weird having anyone take me to the hospital. I mean, the whole thing was just embarrassing to begin with. So, I call up my dad and tell him, you're going to have to pick me up early. Luckily my dad was willing to take me to work because he wanted me to be able to support my mom and I. So, he went ahead and got me early, took me to the hospital. He was there with me when they told me that I had lost my baby. I had to call Miles and tell him what happened. And I remember hanging up the phone with Miles thinking, well, I'm never going to see him again. He's probably so glad that he's dodged this bullet. And so, I thought that now that Miles was free of me, I was never gonna hear from him again. Thank God that wasn't the case. But, I thought that night I had just lost my baby, lost a really good guy I really liked, almost lost my mom. The doctor, I was bleeding pretty bad. And the doctor wasn't necessarily fully comfortable releasing me. I did not want to stay there, though. I really wanted my mom. That's what I really wanted, is I wanted my mom. But she wasn't there. So, the doctor told my dad that I needed to have someone, if he was going to let me go home, I needed someone to stay with me in case I passed out from blood loss. I needed someone that could alert them and have me come back to the hospital. So, my little sister agreed to stay with me. So, since we had been at the hospital all night, it was now morning. My sister's there with me. We don't have very many groceries in the house. It's depressing. I say, you know what? It's December. Let's make Christmas cookies. Let's go ahead, make some cookies. We'll make some Christmas cookies. Let's get out of this, out of this sad state we're in. Make Christmas cookies. Take them up to mom. Let's just watch Christmas movies. Let's have a good day. And, my sister's like, yeah, that sounds good. Mom will love that. So I said to Dad, I said, hey, would you mind, I don't have all the ingredients. Can you just take us to the grocery store real fast? I'll just grab them real fast and we'll come home. And he looks at me and he says, you can walk. I said, Dad, I literally just had a miscarriage. I said, I I'm bleeding profusely. Can you just please take us to the grocery store? And he says to me, he says, you know, Audra, I've seen more of you and your mom than I've cared to see this week for a lifetime. He says, I never wanted to see you guys again, and I'm having to see you guys because of your drama. I'm just having to see all of you guys. He says, I don't want to see you guys and deal with you. You can walk to the grocery store. I just, you know, I think my sister finally convinced him to take us, so he finally did. He finally took us. You know, I'm constantly feeling like nothing. You know, constantly being told how worthless and, you know, my dad finds out that his daughter just lost her baby. And he tells her she can walk to the grocery store when she wants to make cookies to give to her mom, who's in the hospital recovering from her suicide attempt. That's my dad. So, I don't remember if we made cookies. I don't even remember what happened after that. I just remember how much it hurt. Feeling so unwanted and having him, you know, treat me like trash. Mom finally came back, thankfully before Christmas. I remember it was a really hard Christmas. At that point, I was so worn down. I was exhausted. I was just spent. I could barely make it to work. I had no energy. I was so, I think my adrenals were just shot. I mean, going from one thing after the other, like every single month. I just couldn't do it anymore, and I was already disabled, but this time my mom finally convinced me to sign up for Social Security disability. My dad had filed for divorce when my mom was in the hospital. You know, my mom is literally in the hospital again, fighting for her life, and he files for divorce. Yeah. So she knows she probably has to get on Social Security disability because she can't work. She doesn't even want to live. You know, I was so mad at her for the suicide attempt because I said, you're just going to leave me alone. I need you. I want you. I love you. Don't leave me. So at that point, she was only living for me. She only lived, I mean, for years after that. She was obsessed with suicide, but she stayed alive for me. Luckily, it's different now. I think my mom actually, I know my mom wants to live for herself. My mom is happy now. It's nice. It's nice not having to worry about that. I worried about that for years. Constantly worried what I would see when I got home. Anytime I had gone somewhere. So it's nice not having to worry about that anymore. I didn't think I was going to get approved for Social Security disability. I knew that they hardly approve anybody off the bat. You normally have to file appeal after appeal, get a lawyer. It's a process. So I didn't think it was going to even happen for me to begin with. I do have a very extensive medical history. I have been in and out of the hospital and in doctors, you know, from the time I was a little girl. Surgeries, blood tests. I mean, I have had so many blood tests. I have scars all over my arm from blood tests I got from when I was a kid. So, but still, you know, even my cousin that got MS, you know, has MS, they had to go through the appeals process. But I went ahead. My mom convinced me to at least try, so I did. I'd say it's probably about January by now. Probably January. So we're still in the same, you know, it still hasn't been a year yet since that Super Bowl Sunday. January, Miles and I had agreed that we would still, we would not be boyfriend and girlfriend. He did not think I was ready for that. You know, there was so much going on at home. He didn't think that I could handle, long-term relationship. I disagreed, but, I was going to be patient. He wasn't ready for it. So he said that we could both date other people. However, he wanted to make sure that, we were monogamous if we were going to be sleeping together, which we were, because it was safer, which I agreed that made sense. He would, if he was to date anyone else, unless he was going to get into a relationship with them, he would not sleep with them and vice versa. I agreed with that. So I was okay, going out and dating other guys, but being, sexually monogamous with Miles. So, there was this guy that, he was coming to Texas. I met him online. He was from Florida. He just wanted to go and hang out with someone here in Austin while he was in town on business. I was like, okay, I can hang out with you, but I told him we're not gonna have sex though. So if you're looking to come here to have sex, go find someone else. It's not gonna happen. I can guarantee you. Not interested. We can go hang out. We can, go to movies, something fun like that. It's like, yeah, of course. So, we go to a movie. He's actually a model. He's a bodybuilder. He's pretty tall, very muscular. I mean, he was a huge guy. He had done all kinds of like magazine. He had pictures of himself in magazines and stuff like that. So he was a decent looking guy. So it was fun. I don't even remember what movie we went to because we were making out the whole time. He was supposed to drop me off back home. I actually had an appointment to the Social Security Administration the next day. I had to finally do my final interview with the doctor to have them sign off and say that, yeah, I had an ongoing disability. So I could not be out overly late because I did need to get back. So I told him that. I said, I have a really important appointment tomorrow I need to get to. And he's like, oh yeah, of course. So he tells me, hey, I am on some kind of eating schedule. I have to eat a certain amount of protein every so many hours. It's for the muscles. Can we go to the grocery store? Can I grab some things real fast? Because I don't want to, if I wait until the grocery store, if I take you home first, the grocery store is going to close and I'm going to miss my opportunity. So I'm like, oh yeah, sure. So we go to the store. He gets a whole like dozen eggs. He gets some stuff. Then he says, hey, would you mind, I'm really close to the motel that I am supposed to stay at. Would you mind if we just drop that off? I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, that's, sure. Yeah, that's fine. We get there, you know what? We're here. Can I just eat this? Yeah, you know what? That's fine. I'll go ahead and just, he has me sit on the couch and look at pictures of him. He gets out all of these slideshow of pictures of him, from all of his magazines that he had done. He literally eats the whole dozen of eggs. I have never seen, it was like Gaston. He ate all of the eggs and a whole avocado. So he's feeling pretty good. He's full of protein. I'm enjoying myself. I am. So, I'm like, I'm still, he comes over, he puts me on his lap, we start making out again, and, he starts undoing my pants. And I'm like, hey, we're not having sex. I told you we're not doing this. I'm enjoying making out with you, but we're not doing that. And he's like, I know. He's like, I just want to see you get off. I enjoy seeing you get off. I want to be able to get you off, I'll just, if I can just let me get you off, let me see you enjoy yourself, then I'll take you home. You okay with that? So I was uncomfortable, but, naive 20-year-old, I was like, okay, yeah, that might be okay. So he gets me on the bed. He's going down on me. I'm trying to enjoy myself, but, you know, I did not see what he was doing. He was taking off his clothes. Before I knew it, he's on top of me completely naked and his penis is inside me. Yeah, I wasn't expecting that. Start trying to push back on him. He's huge. He's really big. I cannot get him off me. And he's sitting there raping me. And, you know, like, there's all these things that go through your mind. Originally you think, yeah, if someone did that to me, I'd just beat the shit out of them. I'd scratch them. I'd bite them. Yeah, I did not know what to do because he could have really hurt me. He knew it and I knew it. I didn't even know where I was. So I thought, well, maybe he's just confused. So I told him, I said, we weren't going to do this. Remember, we weren't going to do this. And he ignores me, you know, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, there's no way he's got a condom on. You know, Miles is going to be so mad at me. And sitting here thinking about Miles and how he's going to be so disappointed in me because we agreed not to do this. You know, then I'm thinking, oh my gosh, am I going to get pregnant? I mean, I got pregnant before and we were using protection. And I don't even know the history of this guy. You know, is he gonna make me sick? So I tell him, I said, at least please put on a condom. At least just put on a condom. And he says, well, after you get off, I will. He's like, I want to feel you get off. I want to feel you have an orgasm. So I did what I thought I had to do. I pretended to enjoy it. I pretended to have an orgasm so he would stop raping me. And then I thought it would stop. I thought I could go home. No. He wouldn't let me go home. He wrapped his arms and his legs around me all night. He wouldn't even let me go to the bathroom. He held me all night long while he slept. And I thought, am I ever going to see my mom again? Is he going to ever let me go? I mean, my mom doesn't know I'm here. I can't get to my phone. I can't call my mom. Again, I didn't even know where I was. I knew that we were close to a freeway. I knew that there was a pretty big restaurant in front of the hotel that he was staying in. It was like a motel. It was kind of like an extended stay place. It had a full kitchen in it. I thought, well, if I left, if I somehow was able to get away and I ran, where the heck would I go? I don't even know where I'm at, you know? It's ironic because now I know where it was. There's a restaurant in town called Pappadeaux's. It's actually one of my favorite restaurants. And there is like apartments or a motel or something back there, and that's where I was raped. So every time I go there, I try not to look behind there because I don't want to think about it. But I do. It's still a really good restaurant though. So, it was not like me not to let my mom know where I was or to stay out without, you know, coming home. So she was freaking out. She'd been calling my cell phone. There was no answer. She's calling all the hospitals. I wasn't there. The only thing I could think about to do logically the next day to get myself out of that situation, I mean, he didn't even live in Austin. He could have literally taken me back to Florida with him or killed me and dropped me off along the way. No one would find me. So the only thing I could think about doing was pretending like I enjoyed myself and it was fun. Let's go do this again. And that's what I did. The next morning, I pretend like it was a great night. We had so much fun. You know, when you come back, let's do this again. And then he drove me back home. I walked in the house or in the apartment minutes before it was time for us to go to the Social Security appointment. My mom was just so relieved. And I don't know if she could tell that something was wrong. I mean, stuff was always wrong. So, you know, I mean, if I was crying or upset, that was just life. So, I went to the Social Security appointment wearing the clothes that literally had the evidence of my rape on it. And I was approved for Social Security disability. Yeah, the therapist there definitely thought that there was something up with my medical history, and yeah, I was approved right off the bat. Did not have to have any appeals, didn't have to get a lawyer. My mom's was approved right off the bat too. And yeah, that was the conclusion of a really, really, really hard year for us. Really hard year for me. Within 12 months, my mom went through 2 suicide attempts, open heart surgery, lost our house. I was sexually assaulted, was raped. I was a victim of domestic abuse. I had a miscarriage. My dad left with my family, my siblings, never got to live with them ever again. Or, well, not as one big family ever again. Lost my family. Lost my job. Yeah, I almost became homeless. That was just 1 year out of many, you know? And so I can laugh and talk nonchalantly about it because this has been my reality. This was my reality. I mean, it's not now. It's not now. Life is actually really good now. And I know it is because there is such a huge contrast. And that's also why I know that was bullshit. Because I know how it's supposed to be now. I know that was not okay and that was not normal. And then I know that my dad's not okay and that was not normal. We were not raised in a good, loving, healthy environment. Because I know what that feels like now and I know what that looks like now. So I'm really, really lucky. So, you know, not only have I survived it, I'm thriving. I'm happy. And I don't cry every day. I rarely cry. I have anxiety like no tomorrow. I have horrible anxiety, but I don't cry and I'm not sad. And that's the difference. So, yep. So, yeah, that's kind of crazy to put it all out there like that, but there it is.